Welcome inside our New York studios. Brent Stover, Kevin Carter, and Beanie Wells. All right, Tuesday will be the second playoff rankings of the 2025 season. This was the rankings and the bracket, and obviously you're going to see some inconsistencies between the rankings and the bracket. This was going into Saturday. If you win, you get the green check mark. If you lose, you get the X. Obviously, the big losers on Saturday were BYU, which came in ranked number 7. Virginia was ranked 14th. Louisville ranked 15th. Virginia was the 11 seed. Memphis is a good example. Obviously, right now, they would be the highest ranked of the group of 5. So they are in the bracket as the 12, playing against the 5 seed Georgia, even though Memphis does not fall in the top 16 among the rankings. So with all of that said, and after all of what we saw on Saturday, what's your biggest takeaway and the number one thing you're looking at here, Kevin?
Well, some things are going to change. This is a fluid measure going into this weekend, and it's ever fluid in terms of its movement in the next couple of weeks. The first couple of teams, no one's arguing about. People argue the order of those 3 teams. Right now, it does not matter. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M all have top-notch quarterback play. They're built the right way. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. No one's arguing. But to me, looking at that number 4 team, Alabama has got a little bit of an asterisk next to it because of the way that they're manufacturing their wins. To me, right now, even though Alabama beat Georgia, Georgia's playing a better brand of football. So there might be a little bit of turmoil or a little mix-up there. Obviously, Ole Miss is solid at 6. BYU, to me, is the biggest thing that's going to fall out of this top 16, if you ask me. You have too many teams that are edging their way into relevancy. We saw this movie last season. BYU rattled off 9 straight wins, only to lose back-to-back conference wins in weeks 10 and 11 of the season. They came up short today versus Texas Tech. We'll see what they do next week. But that automatically lessens our opinion of the Big 12 and their chances of getting in. I'll open the door so my handlers can get in, because we can talk about this all day.
That BYU is going to be the most interesting thing to me on this board, and really seeing how far they do indeed drop. They lose to the number 8 team in Texas Tech, but it wasn't just them losing, it's how they lost that football game. They were dominated in every phase. So do they drop out of this top 16 to where we're not talking about them being one of the teams that's looked at out of that conference, getting opportunity to get into the college football playoff? And then we got to go to Virginia. We look at Virginia, we look at how they lost today. It was a tough matchup through and through, went down to the wire, but nonetheless, they did indeed lose to a lesser football team. So the ACC, in my opinion, will have a big-time asterisk next to it, because you got Virginia and you have Louisville sitting at 15. Do they slide all the way down the board, and does Georgia Tech jump up? And then does Miami start to creep back up and get back in contention to be in this thing? It's going to get real interesting. I can't wait till Tuesday to see where some of this shakes out. You look at Memphis as well. Are they a team that's completely out of it? And do we throw a San Diego State in there? Do we throw a North Texas in that position? Right now, they have better victories.
Coming up Tuesday, there will be a change there. And as you alluded to, probably, at least for the time being, going to be Georgia Tech right there, with Virginia and Louisville both losing. Now, let's talk about the Indiana Hoosiers surviving. Survive and advance, that's what it's all about. Did they drop out of that too? You alluded to it right off the top of the segment. Is there a spot for them to drop to, or do you leave them at number 2 if you're the committee coming up Tuesday?
If I'm the committee and also as an AP voter, I'm not changing the top 3 teams. I'm not changing where Indiana is, because every championship march to the crown has a game that along the way that you have no business winning, but because of the greatness and the chemistry and the intangible things that you have on your side, the way you're built, just in your DNA, you find a way to get it done. Today was that challenge for Indiana on the road, mind you, in a hostile environment. So I like this Indiana team. I like how they're playing ball. I don't think anything's going to change with them. But to your point, okay, talking about that Memphis team, talking about who can possibly work their way into relevancy, Beanie, to your point, Georgia Tech, Miami, do we have 2 teams out of the ACC get in? This balance with the ACC versus the Big 12 versus the group of 5. That's what we're really looking at, okay? Because the worse these teams do, the worse the ACC does, the worse the group of 5 teams do. Right now, it's not looking so well. We're kind of grabbing at straws, trying to find a relevant team that's going to step up. We thought it was going to be Memphis, right? They were 8-1. They go in against Tulane and they get boat raced last night. It's like these are real things, but they have real ramifications because it opens the door for a possible third or fourth or fifth team out of the SEC and or the Big Ten making its way into the college football playoff.
I could see a situation next year to where we're changing the rules as it pertains to the Group of 5 conference, the highest ranked Group of 5 team getting an automatic bid. Because let's say this Group of 5 has no undefeated teams, and now they're filled with 2 or 3 loss teams. Do we want to see a 2 or 3 loss Group of 5 team in the college football playoff? I don't think so. I'd much rather see ACC have 2 teams or an additional Big Ten or SEC team than that. So it's going to get real interesting down the stretch on how they evaluate this thing. But that is one rule I can see changing.
As far as this Tuesday, Kevin and Beanie, I would just say this, and tell me if I'm wrong. We're only going to have one out of the ACC coming up Tuesday. Obviously, that could change here down the stretch of the season. But based on what we saw at BYU, Big 12 only one as well. So
right.
You see a circumstance where when the dust settles, it is only a 1 bid for the Big 12 and only a 1 bid for the ACC, which obviously leaves the door wide open. Notre Dame has to just keep winning, and the schedule sets up to where they should fall right about in this spot. But are we set up in a situation where it's just even more teams for the Big Ten and the SEC because we're not going to get, it doesn't appear, more than one Group of 5 as well?
Well, who out of the SEC right now that's up there on this board are you going to kick out of this lineup? These 4 teams are pretty well cemented, but you could possibly have a 5th SEC team in Vanderbilt make its way in. Or you could have another Big Ten team like an Iowa, a 2-loss Iowa team could find their way into the playoff. These are all possibilities because of the relative strength of the other Power 4 conferences and the Group of 5. If there's not a relevant team, this year they got an automatic bid in, but there's only going to be one, okay? That's going to open the door. I'm telling you, how well these teams have significant representation in the top 25 and how high they're able to climb will speak to their strength of getting in. And pay attention to those next 4 in. Those teams are going to change as well, as far as in terms of the teams that are knocking on their door trying to get in.
And Beanie, I skipped all the way to Vandy, but you got Texas and Oklahoma lingering right there, 11 and 12 in the rankings, but not in the bracket at the moment.
Right. If you look at Oklahoma, that's an interesting team right there. Next week, we'll be seeing them play Alabama. That game could be real interesting. You just talked about how Alabama's been winning their football games a little too close for comfort, not being able to run the ball successfully on a consistent basis. That matchup is going to be real interesting. So I know that goes beyond Tuesday, but nonetheless, when we look at this thing and we break some of these teams down and they have to, experience that carnage versus each other, it's going to be real interesting. That's why we got to love college football.
Oh, man, I can't wait for Tuesday in the second edition of this year's college football playoff rankings.